Hello and welcome to the DXgov governance discussion, 18th of August 2021. Looking at, first of all, proposals live on mainnet and XDAI. We have 7 proposals boosted or pending boost on mainnet. First of which is the DX Retreat 2021 in Lisbon. So this is something that's been talked about for a while, with the upcoming Blockchain Lisbon Week happening in Portugal, Lisbon, to organize a small DX retreat where DXDAO contributors fly out 1 week before the event to not only meet in person, but also do some workshops, some team building, as well as some co-working together, and also kind of get synced up and organized about the upcoming ETH Lisbon Blockchain Week. So this proposal actually already passed on XDAI, so it was up on mainnet and XDAI. On XDAI, it was solely a signal proposal. On mainnet, it's actually a signal and funding proposal. So the mainnet proposal actually also transfers some funds to the multisig wallet, which is 20,000 euro, more or less 25,000 US dollars. So these are transferred in USDC. The proposal already passed on XDAI, as I mentioned, and we have a couple of days remaining on the mainnet one, which is also the funding one. Then moving on, we have LHB worker proposals, which is Kermit's proposals. They're split through a couple as you request DAI and rep on different addresses. Then there's also a mainnet rep sync for Nathan. So for anyone else who also hasn't done their rep sync, it's always good to have the rep reflected on mainnet, whatever you earn on XDAI. So even though gas costs aren't optimal, if you haven't done a mainnet rep sync for a while, we always encourage that you do some. Then we have an update on the Omen ETH and XDAI Omen ETH contest hash of IPFS. Not sure, Geronimo, if you want to say anything specific about that, or.
Yeah, I don't think. Which release version is it?
1.33.
Right, that is the refactoring release. Like someone from the community proposed the new version. It looks correct, and it's like the bigger refactoring release, which was announced on Keybase.
Okay. Awesome. And then we have actually one last proposal left on mainnet, which is member balancers. So Sky actually did a member balancer for Gen on XDAI. So the treasury on XDAI was running a bit low on Gen, so it's just rebalancing for him, covering the Gen and the transaction costs. And then moving to XDAI, we have 10 proposals boosted or pending there, the majority of which are actually just buybacks. So we've started to kind of increase the frequency of buybacks, trying to do 1 per day, particularly considering that we're not able to do them on mainnet at the moment. So we're trying to push out 1 daily on XDAI, and those also make up the bulk of the current proposals on XDAI. Other than that, we have the LPDAO rewards proposal live. So this is to launch a house web pair campaign with DXD rewards, which we talked about on last week's governance call as well. So if you haven't voted on that, make sure to go take a look. And we also have Russ's worker proposal live on XDAI. And that's pretty much already the proposal roundup right now. And then a couple of discussion items. We actually had the DX retreat in Lisbon and the Arbitrum launch plan. So I guess we can start off with the DX retreat in Lisbon, which we already briefly spoke about before. So as I said, the proposal already passed on XDAI. So we have like some signaling intent that this is going to happen. 2 days left for the mainnet proposal, which will also transfer the funds. This proposal right now is more of like a general signal proposal for the DX retreat to happen. And the funds transferred in this proposal are actually pretty much solely to cover accommodation for the entirety of the DX retreat, which would be roughly from the 10th of October until the 17th, so 1 week. And following that, from the 18th until the 24th or 25th is actually the ETH Lisbon Blockchain Week, or however that is, whatever the official name is. And so this proposal actually covers accommodation for DXDAO contributors over this time period. So we'll have a different accommodation for the DX retreat, which is expected to take place close to Lisbon, so like 20-30 minute drive outside of Lisbon in a bit more of a rural area, so a bit more relaxed and where a little bit hectic than being in the capital. And then of course we're moving to Lisbon a bit earlier before the blockchain week actually starts, so we also have some time to get settled down in Lisbon, and then we'll have accommodation until the 25th. We have got a couple of things prepared which we are intending to book on. House transportation, I'll get to that in a second. So we have a couple of things we already want to book. We're just waiting. We actually have some reserved as well, so we're just really waiting for the proposal on mainnet to go live. And after that, we'll kind of have a set accommodation, and we'll also be able to start planning a bit more around the workshops we want to do, any team activities we want to do, and kind of everything that we'll do. In terms of transportation, so the first venue, if we do go ahead and book that, it's actually a 20-minute ride from the airport. So I would expect that in a future proposal, similar to how we did in EFCC, there will be a certain amount of budget allocated to everyone, which is intended to cover food, transportation, etc. And I believe the best way in Lisbon to get around is really just Uber or public transport. We're actually trying to book a place very central and close to the hackathon for the time in Lisbon. So I don't think transportation will be a major issue, but Uber is relatively easy to use and affordable in Lisbon. So even from the airport to the first venue, I would expect like a maximum of 10 or 15 euros. So it's really relatively affordable compared to other cities, Uber in Lisbon. And then not sure if anyone had anything to talk about. I know Nylon had also proposed a set of workshops from an external company which kind of specializes in strategy workshop for startups, and they also have a lot of experience in the DAO space. So that's one of the more, I would say, formal workshops that we'll be doing, if it passes, of course. Nylon, I'm not sure if you want to give a quick overview of what they do exactly.
Yeah. So first of all, it's not if it passes, it's when it passes. But yeah, Greater than they're a company that I've known for a while. I've actually worked with them in DAOstack. And yeah, they're very good with like team building and process building and sort of like strategy building. And I think this is something we need. They're very experienced also with decentralized autonomous organizations, and have experience with this like hierarchy-less structures. And yeah, I think this could be like a very good sort of like focused workshop on something. And I think like these are conversations that happened in Paris and kind of like in the EMs over the past couple of the past couple of months about sort of like the core and midterm like tactics or strategy. I don't know how to call it. How do we flush these out? How do we build the right processes? How do we try to get to the right decisions? So yeah, that's that. The proposal is up on the DAOtalk forums, and feel free to like comment there. And yeah, I will put it up onto XDAI. Yeah, probably like this week even. Makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah, and I believe Francesca and the other lady who worked there are also quite responsive. So if anyone has any questions, I'm sure they'll be happy to address them as well. They were on a call on Monday on the BizDev call. And yeah, seemed like a cool initiative.
Yeah. Oh, and we have like a group with them on Telegram. I'll put that in the DAOtalk thread.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm in general curious what those workshops entail, because we are like completely remote and communicating with like one chat client. What kind of workshop do we expect to improve our work environment, workflow? Is it like, yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, the proposal goes into a bit more detail. And yeah, it's kind of like strategy building. And, I think all of the companies that they work with are like remote first. Maybe there's like minimal hierarchy. So yeah. So there's some stuff I'm reading here, like, yeah, it's like emergent strategy, which is, like essentially a process to, realize, I don't know, decisions in a decentralized or, non-hierarchical way. Yeah, like there's a session about distributed leadership and accountability. Like how do you, I mean, we do have a little bit, but I think like we could use a bit more accountability and then maybe rewards for successful accountabilities. Yeah, I mean, can you, like anything related, can you like comment this on the DAO Talk thread? Like there will be answering. So yeah.
Awesome. And then Caden is actually organizing another workshop as well, but it has to do more with free time and shooting water at your colleagues.
Yeah. Laser guns, actually. So we'll be shooting lasers at our colleagues.
Oh, okay. How do you know if you hit someone? Is that like, I don't know. I'm old, man.
So there's the sensor in the gun. So when you hit the gun, it'll make a noise, and there's also a life indicator on the side. So you basically have four life bars. So I was thinking we could play some like team elimination stuff. We could actually get pretty competitive with it if we wanted to, or we could just keep it just casual laser tag. But either way, I think that'll be a fun activity.
Absolutely.
How does the weapon recognize the individual?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
So, there you have up to 4 teams that you can make. Usually, you have red and blue. So then, like, if you're on the red team and then you hit a blue, like the laser, somehow the laser knows. I don't know how it works, but it just knows what team it's on.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's awesome. And the great thing is, the first place we actually want to book is actually going to be like an estate with a vineyard. So I think it will be like a perfect location to hide and do whatever,
That's awesome.
That should be quite cool. I would just advise you to maybe check requirements to bringing this into Portugal, because an American flying to Europe with 24 guns in a suitcase might raise some flags.
Yeah, I'll be like, but they're just laser guns. It's like, nah, come with us. But yeah, I'll double check those requirements for sure.
Yeah, just so you don't lose them or anything. But yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And as well, once we have the accommodation booked, we'll also be able to have like some more concrete schedule and start putting down an agenda. So also like the workshops of Nylon, we can figure out some dates for that. And I know Melanie is also in touch with a couple of people already in Lisbon for actually organizing some DXDAO workshops and talks as well, given that there'll be a number of events surrounding LizCon and ETH Lisbon as well. So that's quite cool and moving ahead. And also one last thing to say about the DX retreat is, if any contributor is wanting to come and you haven't put your name on this list I'm sharing in the chat now, make sure to do so we can also get the numbers right and start sorting out everything a bit more concretely. And not sure if anyone else has any questions around DX retreat or Lisbon Blockchain Week.
I have one. How many tickets does do we need 2 tickets for ETH Lisbon and LizCon?
Yeah, so LizCon tickets will actually go on sale. So a bit like EthCC, I believe we'll have to purchase them. If we do go with a sponsorship option, we should have some tickets included with that. We already signed up for their sponsorship deck, but I believe it's not ready yet. They're expecting to have it this week. So we'll have some more information on that, hopefully by end of the week. And for the hackathon instead, it's a hackathon, right? So you actually have to apply to hack. They don't actually sell tickets. The only way to get in without a hacker ticket is to actually welcome Augusto, is to actually apply to hack, or if you have a sponsorship, you get some entry tickets. So I don't know if everyone has already applied for ETH Lisbon. If you haven't, make sure to do so now. You can just go on the website ETH Lisbon and apply to be a hacker. I'll share the link in the chat. So yeah, it's 2 separate tickets. And then the side events, I guess they'll mostly be free, or, have some other way of getting in. So we're actually also looking to organize a DXDAO party, which we could do as an opening party before the event or something like this. And we might also want to think about something cool, like some way to get in would be like, oh, show us a wallet where you hold DXDAO and you get in, or we could distribute rep at the event. But I think all these things are starting to be a bit more concrete now. And if anybody has some cool ideas, please also share them in the chat or wherever, so we can make sure to have an awesome time there, and also run some awesome events and meet awesome people. Yeah, and then if no one else has any other questions, there was one last item on the agenda. So if you guys have been on in the forum, you might have seen Keenan has kind of posted an Arbitrum launch plan. Keenan, not sure if you maybe want to give a quick overview of that.
Yeah, I can give an overview, and then maybe John, if you want to step in with some of the more technical steps, that would be good. But yeah, as you may or may not know, DXDAO has been preparing for Arbitrum for quite a while now, probably pre-summer, and Arbitrum had to keep moving back, and we now have a soft date of August, which we are interpreting to be this coming week. So we've just kind of laid out a plan on all of the moving pieces that we got to put together here to actually deploy on Arbitrum, especially to do so in a permissionless way. Let me drop the thread here. If you haven't seen it, there it is. I'll skip the steps for now, but the only thing that you probably would need to know if you're not the deployer is that there's a reward for the deployer to do the smart contracts and deploy the swapper token of 0.5 ETH. And there's a large list of technical things that they need to handle. I guess the only other thing would be included in that the DXvote deployment, which would be our first time utilizing DXvote on our Arbitrum base, which I believe we are calling a DXDAO, lowercase a. And yeah, we're also dealing with swapper liquidity mining via that base through proposals, and it will be funded in the coming weeks as well with the Signal proposal that passed about a month ago, which authorized 2.25 million of capital, 2 million to swapper liquidity, and about 250,000 to working capital. Maybe John, if you want to give some context on the schemes or steps.
Yeah, I'd say if you want to check out like the technical steps, take a look at the DAO Talk post and feel free to ask questions in the development chat in the forum. I mean, in the forum or in Keybase or Discord. Like I just say this is a big move. It's a lot of firsts, right? First time deploying DXvote with real funds and production. First time moving to a layer 2. Just the launch of Arbitrum itself is really exciting, and the first time DXDAO will be doing a product token. So exciting stuff. Definitely check it out. It's fairly complicated, but it's all laid out there. So
yeah, absolutely. And is it correct that we're basically ready for this anonymous deployer to get moving?
Yeah, exactly. So there's 3 steps, DXvote being probably the first one, although that could be done in parallel with the second step, which is deployment of the swapper token itself. Once those are in place, then the dev team will let Arbitrum 1 team know to whitelist the proposer address, so that that could be anybody. But then at that point, after those first 2 steps are complete, it clears the way for the third step, which is the one that involves deploying all of the swapper exchange and surrounding smart contracts to Arbitrum 1, and making sure that the initial swapper token required for the airdrop on Arbitrum 1, as well as the initial liquidity mining campaigns, are all in place on Arbitrum 1. And then the proposal that goes with that third step is update to swapper.eth. So it would also involve, deploying the latest release for Swapper with the correct environment variables. And and one thing to note there is that, for that third step too, the release hasn't been done yet. So like there's still, that piece needs to be done from the dev team before that third final step can happen.
Yeah, John, did I understand correctly? The blog post from Keenan is basically a to-do list for the community, and the developers will not go through the blog post basically.
Exactly. Like it's sort of the same process that we follow with doing DApp deployments and updates, right? Like the dev team will do the coding and make the release, and then it's up to the community to do the deployments. And this is just a little bit more complicated than usual because it involves, like I said, all those pieces and the smart contract. So exactly, it's just a set of instructions for the community to follow.
So are we gonna keep the community updated in terms of where basically the community deployment is in terms of progress?
Exactly. We should be looking for those proposals, and maybe when people do see those proposals, we can update the DAO Talk thread. But everybody should be on the lookout for those proposals, and there will be work from the voters to verify that things were done correctly when you're voting on the proposals.
Yeah, I also wanted to add some features that we are going to be using for the first time in DXvote, just to summarize. First of all, we are going to be using the wallet schemes that we develop based in our needs. So this has a very nice feature that acts as a security layer where we can say which contracts the schemes can call and which cannot. Also, we are going to be having new constraints for example, for the execution of boosted proposals. So now we are going to require a small percentage of votes to be set in boosted proposals in order to be executed. And there is also a check making sure that the schemes are not able to mint or burn more than a certain reputation percentage. And the best of all is that we are going to be using a DXZ voting machine, which means that we are going to be using DXZ for staking in Arbitrum.
Woohoo!
So all those security features plus DXZ voting. So this is the first time that we are going to be using DXZ and Ether with all our new governance, our brand new governance system, DXvote on Arbitrum. I'm going to be deploying on Arbitrum, and then I'm going to give control to the DXDAO multi-signature that I guess that we are going to have to deploy something on Arbitrum. So the idea is that these multi-signature owners that has been taking actions on DXDAO on mainnet, executing buybacks and a lot of transfers, they are going to be able to change the DXvote configuration and update the cache and some maintenance actions that later I'm going to kind of train, we can call it train the multi-signature owners to maintain the DXvote application on Arbitrum.
Yes, and it's also worth pointing out that the Swapper wallet scheme is set up in such a way that there's a fairly high minimum percentage vote required for boosted proposals, something we don't have on mainnet, right? So like the suggested parameter here in the DAO Talk post is 7%. But that's also paired with pretty quick turnaround times for the pre-boosting and boosted periods. So the idea there is that this would enable like the community and governance to move pretty quickly in the early days on Arbitrum 1 with the liquidity mining campaigns with Swapper. And this is the Swapper wallet scheme, so it's just loaded with the required Swapper tokens. It doesn't have access to other DXDAO funds or other important privileges, right? It's just going to be able to manage those Swapper tokens. but it's a little bit of a new approach to moving quickly, I think, and definitely check out those parameters. We could maybe even set out some time in a future governance call to go through all the parameters and stuff. But Augusto, we'll also be able to update parameters by voting, right, on the registrar scheme.
Yeah, all the configuration of the DApp, all the permissions, configuration, and cache of the DApp, they're going to be able to be updated. Well, the permissions via proposals, the configuration via changing the configuration that the address that is going to be stored on IPFS, and the cache also by that. So there is going to be an address that is going to be maintaining this cache, this data that is stored in the application, and the configuration file. So I guess later next week we should set up a call where I can explain the multi-signature owners how to use and how to change and how to maintain the application themselves. Because right now I'm in complete control of the application, right? Everyone is using the application on GitHub.io, and that is not the idea. So we are going to have it on a proper ENS name, and it's going to be under control of DXgov people.
Oh yeah, and so this is not control of the smart contracts, right? This is not control of the actual on-chain governance. This is control of the DApp.
Maintenance, yeah, it's practically maintenance. It doesn't have any. It doesn't put any funds at risk. Mainly the idea, why do we have to use the multisig for that? Good question, Hero. Because the app is in very early stage, so we need to be able to do change quickly, right? If we find a bug or if we find an issue, we need to be able to change the deployer, to change the application and they deploy quite quickly. We cannot wait for 7 days. So till the application is not in a stable state, it's going to be under control of these multi-signature addresses that we have been using for buyback purposes.
And you're talking about Swapper, the application mainly, right?
I'm talking about DXgov application. Swapper, I have no idea how it's going to be controlled. I guess it can be controlled by the DXgov itself, but the idea of the DXgov application is still in early stage. So I'm putting the responsibility of decide when the app is ready on the multi-signature owners, and when we think it is ready, we transfer the ownership to DXgov.
And with application, you mean the front end and not the DXgov protocol. All right.
Front end of DXgov.
So this would just allow quick updates to DXvote or whatever the URL will be.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I had one question to Augusto. Augusto, you mentioned the usage of constraints, and it will require more something about boosted proposals. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, there is going to be a required percentage on positive votes on boosted proposals too. For example, I think we are requiring like a 7% positive votes on proposals that are going to be on the Swapper wallet scheme. On the quick wallet scheme, we are going to require, I think 1% or something like that, and on the master wallet scheme, 5%. So this is a check that we added because we saw boosted proposals execute with very few reputation. We want to force like other voters are going to also check the proposal and avoid having a proposal being executed with very few reputation. Kind of to enforce that we double check, right? We have more voters seeing what happens.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's basically like adding a quorum to DXvote proposals, right?
To DXvote boosted proposals.
Exactly. Okay. So first it needs to get boosted. Yeah. That's right. This sounds awesome, guys.
Also, just to finish, I'm working on a DXvote roadmap for to version 2.0. So I'm just getting the document ready, and I'm going to be sharing with internally with the community, and then share it on DAO Talk. And yeah, that is going to be also this step on deploying to Arbitrum and future steps that we are going to take in XDAI and mainnet to, because the configuration that we are going to use in Arbitrum, that is the ideal one. That is what we, once we start using it, you guys are going to see how awesome it is and why do we want to use it in XDAI and mainnet. And I'm creating a roadmap of how we can migrate, migrate from XDAI and mainnet to a configuration that we are going to be using in Arbitrum. And also staking, using DXG start using DXG as a staking in XDAI and mainnet. And we are going to be able to start staking with DXG on XDAI and mainnet when we deploy a wallet scheme that uses the DXG voting machine. And that will be the next step after Arbitrum, to deploy a wallet scheme on XDAI with the DXG voting machine, start using it, and later we can start getting rid of the old schemes that use the Genesis protocol and replace it with new wallet schemes using DXG voting machines.
And this was something that confused me for a bit, but Augusto, even though we're using DXD as the staking token on Arbitrum 1 on ADXDAO, the DAO itself, like that base, is not actually providing down stake in DXD like the mainnet DAO provides down stake in Gen. Is that right?
Yeah, that is something that that mainly works in the contribution reward, where you have a reward for, the minimum DAO bounty that is set to 250 Gen in contribution reward. If you create a proposal and you succeed and you execute it successfully, you get the 250 Gen as reward, because the DAO, the avatar, and the voting machine, mainly the voting machine, it has Gen that give you a reward. So here there is going to be no reward. The minimum DAO bounty that is set, that, for example, when you create a proposal on DXvote and you see that there is one DXG staked on negative, right? So you have to stake more than one to boost the proposal. This negative DXG that you see at the beginning, this is it is not like a real, like you are not going to get it back like you do with the Genesis protocol right now using the contribution reward. It's just a number that is set to force you to stake DXG, that you're going to get all your DXG that you stake, but you are not going to get this reward that you get in the Genesis protocol.
Later, why did you remove? Yeah, sure.
Later, if we want, we can add it. If we want to give a reward on DXG, that can be configured, and we can send DXG to the DXG voting machine, so we can use that feature.
Yeah, in general, really like the feature DAOstack kind of introduced with this rewarding governance participation, right? At the end of the day, we want that DXD holders actually like basically boost stuff and signal with their money if something should go through, and they should be rewarded with it. So I would love to see that feature getting back.
Yeah, that feature can be used. We are not using it at the beginning because we want to be as simple and as possible. But yes, this definitely can be used. This is basically the staking token DAO bounty reward that you have.
But do you lose your? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just wondering, do you lose your DXD if the proposal fails, for example? So if it boosts, but then the proposal on the vote fails, does the DXD go to the treasury?
That can be configured as well. I don't remember how do we configure it in the DXD voting machine. There is an option that the DAO can claim the stake that was lost. We are not using it on the DXD voting machine, I think. But in case that you stake on an outcome that, for example, a proposal executed successfully, and you stake it for no, and this proposal executed, it didn't expire, it actually executed. There is two outcomes. If the DAO is claiming this reward or this DXG that it got by someone staking on an outcome that didn't happen, the DAO takes it. If not, it goes back to it gets distributed among the others, people who voted for the outcome that actually happened.
Dave, was that also a question for the mainnet? Like, if the DXgov is actually winning a staking game, or like, do you know the outcome on mainnet?
No, I don't know the outcome on mainnet actually. No.
So as far as I know, I think John is like the holographic consensus master with Nylon. Only if a proposal has been boosted and is not able to unboost anymore, and the DXgov wins, then the DXgov will receive it. Is that right?
So the question is, what happens to the upstake when?
Yeah, exactly. If let's imagine the DXgov is betting against it, someone boosted it, and then the proposal fails after it got boosted via voting.
Yeah,
the DXgov will get it back, right?
I'm not sure what happens if there's no downstake. Like if the DAO is not, because the way it works, I think, is what Augusto said, where it gets distributed amongst the people on the other side. So if the DAO is automatically downstaking, like it is in mainnet 250 gen, then like I think the DAO is getting all of the upstake if it fails, right? Unless other people also downstaked, in which case it's split. I'm a little unclear or unfamiliar with how this is going to work without the automatic downstaking from the DAO. It sounds like it still requires the upstake, the same amount of upstake. I just don't know what happens to it if it fails. Maybe we can look into that, Augusto, before.
Yeah, definitely. The DXG voting machine, I think we don't use nothing like this. We use the simplest configuration that we can. Like there is no DXG going to and from the voting machine itself. It is all distributed among the people who stakes on it. So depends on the outcome on how much you're going to get of your stake back. But yeah, later we should review it to make sure that we have a clear understanding of it, because the Genesis protocol machine, it has a different configuration, and I think it's a bit more complex.
Yeah, maybe we can look at that config, and we can also just run a test on the testnet version of DXvote where we try to fail a proposal and see what happens to the upstake.
Definitely, yes. Well, we have DXvote in Rinkeby and Arbitrum testnet. We can use it there. We can test everything there if we want. And another thing is that the reputation that we are going to use for DXvote on Arbitrum is going to be based on the reputation that you have on mainnet plus the ones that you map in your reputation mapping. So from the reputation token on mainnet plus the reputation mapping, we are going to generate how much reputation has. Actually, you should see the same reputation that you're seeing on mainnet plus the changes that were done on the mapping of reputation. The reputation mapping is something that we use when we started using the reputation token on other networks, and we needed to we need to have access to reputation that belongs to smart contract wallets in mainnet. So the smart contract wallet, we cannot regenerate that address on other networks. So we need this smart contract wallets on mainnet to tell us which address they wanted to use on other networks. That is why we use a reputation mapping tool. So if you have reputation in a smart contract wallet, in mainnet and you haven't mapped your rep, you should.
Where do we need to map?
If you've mapped already for XDAI, you should be all set.
Easy. All right.
And if you haven't, or if you missed that and you have a smart contract wallet with rep, you could find that DAO Talk post. We could follow up with us on Keybase. We can help you find it. It's on DAO Talk from back when we launched the XDAI base. It's a post from Nylon. But yeah, we'll need everybody, everybody's participation, everybody on this call and in the community. The participation in the Arbitrum 1 base will be important for a bunch of reasons, right? Like in general, obviously it's good to have engaged governance, but this is also, I view like a DXvote beta. So the feedback and input from the people trying to use it for governance will be very important for improving the DApp and getting it to a point where we're ready to use it on mainnet. And lastly, it's going to be important in moving quickly with the swapper liquidity mining rewards and the things that need to happen around that.
Yeah. Also, like when the clone of the DStar on XDAI happened, I think there was a mistake where we did the rep state was actually reduced in terms of address count because we basically did not include like smart contract wallets which have not been mapped on the contract, and I think that mistake should not be done the second time on Arbitrum. Basically, if there is a smart contract wallet which didn't map, I think we should just use the smart contract wallet Ethereum address as a placeholder.
You think we should use the actual smart contract address? Because we know that they won't be able to use that address, right? You could use one of the owners.
Oh, that's even better, I think.
That would be a way to hold it. In my view, it's not necessarily a mistake though, because if there's this technical hurdle, and if the addresses are not engaged, people have basically had this entire time to do the mapping, right? And if your address is not engaged, then they're not likely to participate, right? So in some ways, I think it's almost like a beneficial thing for the DAO that we're losing some of the unengaged addresses, but the option is always there to claim it. Yeah. Like, and it's like, they can always come in and say, hey, look, I missed the mapping, but this is my address and I can prove it. And I did the thing and I want to get the rep that I deserve on the chain. Like, it's always possible, right, to get that rep later. So I think in some ways it's actually like beneficial to the DAO if we're missing the unengaged rep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if we want to achieve majority votes on Arbitrum, right? Like including non-governance participants, just for a placeholder. Like the main point from my point of view was that I think the addresses who have mapped and who have a lot of rep will just have like way more power on Arbitrum, so it will not be the same rep. Like, I think we will reduce the decentralization of rep on Arbitrum, but with a good deal, because we will have like mostly governance participants on Arbitrum, which is beneficial for the beginning.
Yeah, and as you see with these rep syncs on mainnet, things are getting more distributed. It's a shame that we can't move faster with some of that rep syncing in terms of like the proposals on mainnet, and that they cost money, but they are like increasing the distribution of rep and reducing the top heaviness, like slowly over time. Which, I don't know, in my mind, I think that's the right way to do it. Like, I think we are constantly improving, and that should always be a goal, to improve the distribution. But But the flip side of that is engagement. I think engagement is also super important for the health of the on-chain governance.
Yeah, especially on Arbitrum, I think for the first month, it's basically like still a playground, right? So I expect that just the core will participate. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
we've
It's just like
we've sort of gotten used to not really relying on absolute majority votes, but it is sort of important for the DAO to be able to do absolute majority votes. So yeah, again, it's just sort of this balance, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to lose some of that unengaged rep.
Exciting times ahead.
Indeed. Strap yourself in. Get ready.
Do we know any other like DAO redeploying? Everyone's talking about products and AMM protocols, but I think it's quite a unique thing to install like a real DAO base, right? Is there anyone else we can compare?
It's a good question. I haven't kept up with all the different models that different DAOs are using to do cross-chain governance. Has anybody been paying attention to that? I mean, it's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, but 1inch got like permission to be one of the first on Optimism.
But yeah, I think that's it on the on that DAO Talk post. It's encourage everybody to take a look. It is a bit long, but some cool stuff.
Awesome. And I believe that also covers our agenda for today for the governance calls. So if anyone else has anything else they want to talk about, speak now or forever remain in silence. I think Nathan was raising a point. I don't know, Nathan, if you want to say what you were writing in the chat about the rep.
Yeah, I was wondering whether it's at all possible whether DAO Stack would allow it, but Augusto just left. I believe you mentioned in the past that Elon might be familiar as well. My question is, wouldn't it be possible for anyone claiming rep on any chain to receive rep automatically to their address on any of the other DAO bases without having to put up a separate proposal for it? And this brings up a bigger question, whether we could somehow allow a proposal, whatever the reason for it, not just rep, on any chain to be able to be executed as an action on some of the other DAO networks that we have a base on.
I think the short answer is we don't have the ability to do that at this time. Like they are kind of like these separate instances, even though they reflect the distribution from mainnet at the start. But yeah, these are like interesting questions, right? And like things to think about. It's like the system. We had a pretty, I think, involved discussion when we were launching the XDAI base, and I believe like what was said was that the plan was basically to when launching a new base, like take the current rep mapping from mainnet and use that on the new base. And then that base, though, could diverge from mainnet in terms of what the rep looks like and what the rep distribution is. certain actions like you see on XDAI with worker proposals can be synced back up to mainnet, but I could also imagine other actions really being local to that base. So it's an interesting thing, because I think what you said here in the chat, like we're not 3 DAOs, we're 1 DAO, like that is true. I totally agree with that. But there is, I think, a little bit of independence in some way of the bases, if that makes sense.
Well, I actually expect, because we kind of envision that the bases are kind of sovereign, like I think there's a high chance that those bases will have a slightly different community, right? Like depends on if they upgrade, like if they update their rep state on mainnet. I think each base is kind of sovereign, and no base has ownership of the other. And like I think that is like, that's actually a good thing in terms of security. Like for Nathan's idea, it would mean that the mainnet base has kind of ownership of updating rep on other bases, right? And that's a huge security like attack. If someone is capturing the mainnet stuff, they actually capturing all bases. So I think it's actually worthwhile that each base is kind of as sovereign as possible, even though like the starting point was like a rep clone, right? Like it's good that the XI base is untouchable from mainnet, kind of.
But I also think they're practically sovereign, right? Because if I do a proposal on, let's say, XDAI to move 200 WETH, and XDAI votes yes on that, there's no way mainnet can override it anyway, right? So they're practically sovereign.
Yeah.
He's sovereign, but perhaps like dependent a bit on mainnet. Like mainnet is where the majority of the funds are, like the control of the ENS names, right? And you might get into, if they really did diverge, it could be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. When you start thinking about this stuff, it's quite a big design space. And I actually like the idea that Nathan is describing here, but there's also technical challenges to what you can implement today, right? So actually, I'm not really sure how you could implement something like that, where like you actually are able to sync things across 3 different chains, right? Like as of now, I don't think we know of ways to do like cross-chain rep syncing or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So so Ethereum is kind of like Genesis 2, like generation 2 of blockchains. I think the third or fourth generation, they will like seamlessly cross-chain communicate, and this is something where I think it will possible, like on Cosmos or Polkadot, like installing a DAO which has ownership of another DAO on some other relay chain or like other zone on Cosmos is possible already right now, but not on Ethereum. Like the bridges are just super. Like first, there's no bridge standard. Everyone's building their own bridges. I think they kind of fixed everything, and second, it's not synchron. You actually like the bridging is just a huge issue, and I think it will stay for a couple of years. I guess if ETH 2.0 with like finality comes in, I think this will change, and then the bridge design space will be huge again. But ETH 1.0 is kind of now grandpa.
I've thought of, I haven't thought about it much, but rudimentary solution of sort to test this out would be a solution to put a proposal that automatically creates a proposal on all bases, and it should only be for signal proposals. And in the end, you tally the votes from all 3 chains, and this way you will allow everyone to vote no matter on which chain they're voting, and you only allow them to vote with their address on only one chain. And for example, if I want to create a signal proposal and ask rep holders of DXDAO on all chains whether they wish to go ahead with a certain action without triggering anything, just a signal, and they can vote on Arbitrum, they can vote on XDAI, they can vote on mainnet, and then you tally the votes from all of these 3 signal proposals, and based on that information, you could move along with something else. I don't know. Basically, all 3 proposals on all 3 bases will have the same start and same expiry.
I think it sounds nice, but technologically probably also a bit of a nightmare for exploits and also some proposals like buyback funding proposal on XDAI. You don't necessarily, like, some proposals are base specific, right? They're not necessarily base agnostic where you would want them. I don't know. I mean, I think it sounds really nice, but I think I don't know. John, you unmuted as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that does sound like a bit of an optimization, but yeah, I'm not technically. I think there would be a decent amount of work to do something like that, and yeah, I just don't know of easy ways to make that happen now. But I mean, I do think like I said, this design space is incredibly large, and I think we will see a lot of innovation and work done around these types of things.
Yeah, so like one good example is Omen with the arbitration service, right? Omen on XDAI is actually using Kleros on mainnet to decide for like bigger markets, and it's doing that by like using the bridge messaging protocol, but it's like super alpha shitty user experience. It's on XDAI, a user actually needs to like send a transaction on XDAI, which is basically sending a message to the bridge and telling the bridge, hey, bridge, can you talk on mainnet, please, to some contract to like, please trigger like the arbitration service. And then someone on mainnet needs to like waiting for the bridge to signal that like a keeper can actually trigger the transaction on mainnet. And then like some keeper needs to push that transaction on mainnet to call the Kleros system on mainnet to like do arbitration. And then the same thing needs to happen to send the message from mainnet Kleros court system to XDAI network. So it's super horrible. And it just shows how bad bridge designs are right now. And it's a proof of work chain at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's exactly what needs doing. Yeah. It's something that nobody wants to deal with, but you actually painted a really good picture, and it seems like it's already working. So it just needs, smart people to think about it and improve it.
Awesome. I think we're also running a bit over time, so thank you everyone for attending, and see you around.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.